Okay, so let's take a look at how you can use PyArango driver with ArangoDB database. So if you haven't installed ArangoDB, go to arangodb.com, then make sure to click on download button and then go to community edition and make sure to download that instance. Okay, so in my case I'm using community edition, right, and I have installed Windows version through this zip server. Okay, so zip server file is listed right here, so make sure to extract this and make sure that user bin folder is in path, okay, so that you can run ArangoD and ArangoDB exes as background service. Okay, now to install ArangoDB Python driver, so what you can do is go to ArangoDB community GitHub repository and there you can find PyArango. So what we're going to do is we are going to open command prompt. Now let me clear the command prompt. Now here I'm going to type in pip install PyArango. Okay, you can check that command here as well. Simply copy if you want. Okay, let me paste it here. Now hit enter. Okay, and after installation we'll also verify by making a reference to PyArango connection, and if it successfully accepts that, that means PyArango is installed on our system. So here you can see it is installing the package. Okay, after the installation it will come here, empty prompt, and here you can see it only give me warning about using older version of pip, which I am going to ignore. I am not going to upgrade to latest yet. So our package successfully installed and we have to verify that. So let's clear the screen, and next thing we are going to do is we are going to check our command. Let's see this from PyArango connection import. So for that we will simply log into Python, and here you can see I have Python 3.8.1 and I'm going to input that from PyArango connection import statement. Hit enter. If it returns with blank prompt like this, that means our PyArango is installed and we can run commands by referring to that driver. Okay, so if you can see this, that means you have successfully installed ArangoDB's PyArango driver. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can connect and create a database using ArangoDB and Python driver. So what we'll do is, first thing, go to arangodb.com, then click on download. Okay, next thing would be to go to community edition link. Here you can see get community edition. Okay, now after that select your platform. Okay, and after that choose the type of download you want, one being NSys package, which is installer for server and client tools, and second being zip package. Okay, I have installed this zip package and extracted. That looks something like this. Now the user then bin directory needs to be added to your system path. Okay, so once the path is added, what you can do is run ArangoDB, and also you can run ArangoD. Okay, these two needs to be on, if you want to connect to your database. Okay, also you can open Sublime Text or Visual Studio Code, and let's say create one file, name it sample.py. Now what we can do is, before that we need to also download this PyArango driver. Okay, now we just need to type in this pip install PyArango in one of the command prompt. Once installed, we can run the code. Okay, so for that, what we can do, go to Sublime Text, and here I'm going to write a PyArango, then connection, then import. Okay, now here, after we import the connection, we have to call for connection method that takes username, which is root, and password, which is going to be empty. Okay, now here I have to also create DB object or variable that uses connection dot create database. Okay, now we have to also check the name. Okay, so let's say if I go with this name, and if we pass on our connection with that name and get the output. Okay, so to test this, we can open command prompt and type in python sample.py. Okay, if database is created, it should show you that name that we sent using .create database method. Okay, here you can see that database is created and it is shown here. If you can see this, that means you have managed to create a database in ArangoDB using Python driver. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can connect your Python driver for ArangoDB to ArangoDB database. So what we're going to do is go to arangodb.com, then click on downloads button. That should take us to downloading of Enterprise Edition, and on that page we also have one option for downloading Community Edition. Click on that. Okay, now depending on your operating system, you can choose the installer. In my case, that is Windows, so I'm going to click on Windows option. Now in case of Windows, again you have multiple options like downloading installer package or zip package. Okay, here you can see already downloaded ArangoDB zip file, extracted, and I have these folders. And here in user directory there is also bin, and inside that I have these files. So make sure to give this directory in your system path. Okay, now after that you can go for ArangoDB GitHub repository, and you have PyArango repository over there. Okay, now here you see pip install PyArango is the command we need to use to install PyArango. Okay, once you install that, what you can do is you can open Sublime Text, and let's say I created one sample.py. Now here what I'm going to do is I'm first going to import from PyArango dot connection and import everything. Now in order to connect to your database, you have to use connection object and then call for your connection method that accepts username, which is a root in my case, and also password, which is going to be empty. Okay, now next thing would be If you have any default database, let's say if you choose to connect to, let's say, underscore system, that is also valid. Alternatively, you can also use your existing database. In my case, that would be MyDB. And if we can print out that connection, okay, that would be the sign that we managed to connect to ArangoDB using this PyArango driver. Okay, so open command prompt. Now make sure that you are in same directory. Okay, here you have to type in python sample.py, hit enter, and here you can see it returns with ArangoDB database MyDB. Okay, if you get this output, that means you managed to connect to your ArangoDB database using PyArango driver. There is one issue to this though. I didn't show you how to connect by calling these ArangoDB and ArangoD services. Okay, so make sure that these two services are also open. Okay, so open multiple command prompts and make sure to run ArangoDB and ArangoD. Okay, so you can also verify your activity with this PyArango on that web interface. So make sure to also run ArangoDB on command prompt in order to see your output. So to go through the flow, first thing, make sure that you have ArangoDB installed. Second thing would be to install your PyArango driver. Then make sure to start your ArangoDB and ArangoD services. Then go to your code, make sure to add the connection. Okay, so in connection you use username and password. Okay, by default there won't be any password for root, so you can try this one out. Then you can call for database that you have, or you can also create by going through web interface, or simply call underscore system database and then simply print out that database connection. Okay, so you get the idea how to connect to ArangoDB database with Python driver. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can create a collection and add documents in ArangoDB using PyArango driver. So if you're on official ArangoDB community account, then you can find PyArango repository there. Okay, to install this driver, you can simply go down below to installation option and make sure to copy this command and let's say run it, and that pip install PyArango command should install that driver on your system. Okay, now the next thing that I wish to show you is that you have to also install ArangoDB. Go to downloads page from arangodb.com and you have to navigate to community edition for ArangoDB. Okay, once you check this link, get community edition. Okay, you can also check from top menu. Okay, make sure to click on Windows installer. Okay, now here you have options to install from nsys package, which contains server and client tools, or you can use zip package option. Okay, in my case I have used this zip package, and after extracting that it looks something like this. So it contains multiple directories, etc., resources, user and variable. And now in this user, then bin, this bin directory path needs to be added to your environment variables path. Okay, once you do that, you can open command prompt and make sure to type in ArangoDB. Okay, also if you want web interface, you can go for ArangoD as well. Okay, once ArangoDB is on, and if you see this ready to serve message, it will be available on 8529 port. Okay, now what we can do is write one file, name this sample.py. Okay, now first thing that we are going to do is type in PyArango, then .connection, and import everything. Now you have to establish connection using connection object, so we call for connection and then pass in username, let's see root. Okay, and in case of password, in my case that's empty, so I'm leaving that as empty. Now next thing is I also need to know my database, so I already created one database inside and its name is mydev, right? Okay, so if you have any other database, like say you have database like MyDB, you can also connect that. Okay, so let's see, if I choose that database, I can directly move to next part, which is going to be creating a collection, right? So if I choose to write this variable as dev collection, that will be like anchor, which help us navigate to our collection. So create collection and give it a name, let's see mydev. So inside MyDB database there is one more collection named mydev. Okay, so we move on and simply print our db and then mydev. Okay, and it will output that connection information. Okay, also the information about recently created collection. So let's type in and verify what we have just created, a collection named mydev. Okay, now here is the ArangoDB collection name mydev. Okay, and its ID, type document, status loaded. Okay, now that was just a collection. Now what if I want to create a document? So let me name it doc1 as my variable, and then dev collection dot create document. Okay, so what we will be doing is our doc1 is the document creator here that will basically accept, let's say in my JSON format, that would be name. Okay, and let's see, we add a few more parameters there. Okay, name it salary. Okay, so let's see these three things that I wish to output. Then what I will do is simply print doc1. Okay, right? So what I can also do is print something empty. Okay, right? So let's run this again and see what it will do this time. Okay, so database MyDB already has a collection named mydev, so we don't have to output. Okay, so sorry, use comment. Okay, to fix the error, what I've done is I have created doc1 and managed to call my DB connection to mydev collection and call the create document method. Okay, then when I run this, I managed to get my document added to that collection. I can keep going on and add new entries as well. So let's see if I change a little bit. Okay, and If we add it again, that will work as well. Okay, as you can see, right? So we managed to cover that error by changing few lines in the code. So you get the idea how to create collection, how to create documents in ArangoDB using PyArango driver. So let's take a look at how you can create document in ArangoDB database using Python's PyArango driver. So first thing to do is open command prompt, and here I'm going to start ArangoDB service. That should start ArangoDB, and you will be able to access the database and make queries. Okay. Next thing to do would be to install PyArango, which is Python driver for ArangoDB database. So pip install PyArango. Once you install this, that should allow you to make the queries to the database. Okay. After that, we are going to open text editors such as Visual Studio Code or Notepad Plus or Sublime Text. Create one file that ends with .py extension, or you can name it anything you want, like demo sample example. Okay. So once you do that, next step would be to navigate your command prompt to this directory where you have created this file. Okay, in my case it's D files directory. Now here I'm going to call for PyArango dot connection and import. Okay, now after that I'm going to establish a connection with connection and calling for username, which is going to be root, and then password, which is going to be empty. Okay, I already have a database to connect to, so I'm going to use database variable that calls for connection object and points to PyDB. Also, I can use my collection to create or simply connect to my PyCollection collection. Okay, so for that we use create collection and name PyCollection. Okay, you can simply ignore this. If I already created that, I can simply use db and then call for PyCollection. Then I'm going to create the document. Okay, so let's name this document doc1 and set its properties with name. So right here I have name here, then document1, let's say year, and we have 2019. Okay, now what I want to do is I simply want to print this document1. Okay, so we will see if this works out. Okay, so now to create document, we simply use doc1 equals to my collection dot create document. Okay, now also we will call for PyCollection by simply pointing it out to our existing PyCollection. Okay, so next thing would be to execute the code again, and it shows you ID as none, key none, revision none, but it stores our name and year. Okay, so you get the idea how to basically create your collection and how to access that collection and then create the document and then add the items in the document and finally print those items out with simple print statement. Let's take a look at how you can read ArangoDB database documents using PyArango driver. So if you are on GitHub, check for PyArango repository and you can install that by opening your command prompt and then simply typing this pip install PyArango. Okay, once installed you can execute the code explained here. Now next thing would be to install your ArangoDB. So go to arangodb.com, then go to downloads page. There you have to find the installer for Windows. Okay, so in case of Windows you have community edition option. Okay, and this link should take you to choosing Windows as your release. Here you can also see two different installer options, one being server and second being client tools, and there is also zip package that you can extract and should look something like this. Okay, so in that you have this user and then bin folder, so make sure that this bin folder address is added in your environment variables path. Okay, once you do that, what you can do is open command prompt and then you basically add ArangoDB, and let's open one more. Also start ArangoDB service. So when you use ArangoDB, you will find that it should allow you the web interface on port 8529. Okay, so you can check that. Okay, so let's wait for it to show the message ArangoDB is ready for business. So it should be available on 8529 port. Now next thing is, okay, now here you can see I have created one sample.py and it is in this particular directory where I have to navigate. Okay, so let me go there. So cdpdb, okay, now what we can do is we can write our code here. So first thing would be from PyArango we are going to use connection. Okay, so basically what we will do is we will use PyArango.connection and then import everything. Okay, then we will try to establish connection using connection object. So we'll use connection. Here we can use username as root and then password. Here my password is empty, so my current option would be to directly log in. Okay, so next thing would be to basically use a database pointer that points to existing database. Let's say MyDB is my existing database. Now what I can do is I can write a query. So let's say I can write ArangoDB query equal equals to, we will basically write for content in my collection, return that content. Okay, now in order to execute this, we have to point out query result. Okay, sorry for that, my keyboard is new, so it is getting a bit hard for me to type with this new layout. Okay, so that being said, let me type in db.aql query. So aql query, here pay attention to the uppercase aql query. Okay, now in this particular method we have to pass our existing query variable, then set row results to true. So use true for uppercase here. Okay, and batch size, let's say I have like 4 entries. So how I want that to appear, let's say up to 10 or 100. Okay, now what I can do is I can print query result as is. Okay, but for that I have to output one key at a time. For key in query result, okay, I have to print key. Okay, so what we can do is we'll try to establish some connection here, and let's see if it works. Okay, so we already have ArangoD and ArangoDB executed, so we should be using python sample.py. Make sure that your file is in same directory and you will be able to execute this. Okay, if there are any errors, we will go through that and we will solve it. Okay, so let's fix this. Let's type in python sample.py. Okay, so now with that error taken care of by changing complete uppercase into only the first letter uppercase, here you can see the result appeared. Okay, so we got our 4 results from our database. So you see these 4 documents from your ArangoDB database collection.